the vault. High atop the pastoral center of the Diocese of Camden, you're listening to Talking Catholic.
Hola, everybody, and welcome to Talking Catholic with you, Marianela Nunez. And I'm here so excited with my friends Jen Morrow and Mike Walsh. Hey, guys.
Hi.
Isn't this exciting? We're here at the Vault.
I'm very excited. This is our first podcast together, Marianela.
Yeah, this pandemic changed the world, and now we're kind of like back into it.
I know. I hope we get to do more of these more often. This is a unique episode in the sense it's another one that we pre-recorded a section of it that you'll hear at the end. But then this front end is going to have a lot of chit-chat just amongst the three of us. And I will warn the listeners now, I have the monster of a head cold, so no guarantees that I will say much. So, kudos to that. And then
so get excited.
You started out saying so much already.
I seem to recall that we recently got a critique that from someone that Jen knows that I talk too much. And the thing was, she wasn't wrong, because I remember that episode. I was like, I did talk too much on that one. So.
Yes, this caller said, can Mike Walsh talk a little less and Jen Morrow talk a little more?
Oh my goodness!
You'll get no argument from me.
She's a very a forceful caller.
There you go. And I will warn the listeners now. I did try to abdicate from this episode, and they made me come on. So if I talk too much, it's their fault.
It's true.
Anyway, but it's a lovely conversation we're going to have about Catholic schools later. But we kind of wanted to talk about some stuff that's going on, around the world and in our diocese in South Jersey and New Jersey. There's actually a lot of information. Obviously, we didn't talk about this before the podcast, but the news about the coming out of the Supreme Court and sort of how that affected the pro-life, movement. That's going to send shockwaves. Depending on what that final decision is, I'm truly stunned. I was not, as someone who I'm an institutionalist. I love the institutions of our country. Seeing a leak like that happening in the Supreme Court is just mind-blowing. And then what the leak was even more mind-blowing.
I feel like it's mind-blowing as a journalist as well. So, we don't want to get into that right now, but I was stunned by the news and stunned by the leak as well. So it was a double whammy.
That was a double whammy. I will say that I do want them to find the leaker, because I think those things need to be protected, and the manner in which the Supreme Court operates.
Yes.
It's often said that it's done under a veil of secrecy, but it's not because they're trying to hide anything. It's that we talk about the three branches of government, and one of the things that they do is they are independent of everything else. They are not supposed to be affected by politics, or for that matter, even protest. Of course, there's a bit of an irony in that famously, we pro-lifers march upon Washington, D.C. every year in support of the pro-life movement in front of the Supreme Court building. But by design, they ignore us. It's what they're supposed to do is ignore us, because they're not supposed to be moved by stuff like that. It's purely the letter of the law. I have an appreciation for that.
Right. I do too, but I also have appreciation for all of the people over the years who have made that their mission to go out and take part in the March for Life or the Rally for Life on the local levels. There's a lot of dedication there. Yeah.
I wouldn't change a thing, but it'll be interesting. What will be interesting is if that SCOTUS leak is correct, does the march ever happen again?
Interesting.
Or does it become like local marches? Like, we have pretty open abortion rules in the state of New Jersey. Does that, there's always been small marches in Trenton. Does it now become an enormous march in Trenton?
That's true. I don't know.
Who knows what the future holds?
Yeah.
It'll just be a different kind of march, because it'll be
amazing.
Opponents.
Yeah.
It'll be a march.
The final decision will have who knows what will actually come out of it. So we're all just sort of like chit-chatting here, but it'll be interesting.
Yes, it will. Yes. I don't know. I have
hopped up on cold meds right now.
I know, and I have so many things to say about this, but I don't know if this is the appropriate time to talk about it.
All right.
So I'm
there you go.
Keep my mouth shut.
Now you're going to make our listeners be like, we really want to know what Jen's thinking.
I got news for you. You don't have to wait long, because she's unable to stay quiet for very long, which is nice. So it makes, as
she's
a podcast
writer,
co-host,
she's a journalist.
She's fantastic.
Exactly.
But we are going to be reporting on this for forever.
Right. And I was going to say, I don't need to talk about it now, because it's going to be in the paper. It's going to be probably on a future podcast.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll have priests and bishops and everybody talking about it. So let's talk about something else.
All right. Easier?
Well, one of our upcoming podcasts that I haven't talked to any of you about yet is, every year after the ordinations, we invite the recently ordained priests onto the podcast. So we're going to have to schedule that for some time in the summertime because we have a big ordination class this year. At least a big ordination class for us. We have five guys being ordained priests, God willing, on May
14th. 10:30, St. Agnes in Blackwood.
That's right. Everybody's invited.
If you have never seen one, it is an interesting thing to go to. So just check it out. As Catholics, it should be on our checklist.
There's, the first time I saw an ordination, I was like almost like mouth hanging open. I contain your amazement, Mike.
Yeah.
I was speechless.
What a shock.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful, especially the music is always amazing.
So special.
Seeing the men lie prostrate is amazing. I hate using the word amazing, but that's what it is. I don't know what else to say.
Well, and it's, kind of like thinking of Jesus and, all of that line of, it's coming from Jesus. He was the first one, and he's bringing it down to us, and we're passing it down, and this is why the Catholic Church is so special. So
It's true.
And also, I feel like we're always looking for a purpose in life, right? And that, I'm going to say it changes, but how we get to that goal is always a little different. And now you're watching these men know their goal, and you're watching them take that first step toward it. There is a beauty in that, and then also being invited into that, because you're being invited into that private moment of them finding their goal in life and beginning down that path. And I'm always honored, now that I've been to one, and I'll probably go every year, I'm always honored to go because I feel like I'm...
you're part of something big.
Yeah.
It's kind of like watching the vocation realization at first hand. So it's pretty cool. So people, if you have a child who, have never experienced one, take them there, because we need to have more priests, because no priest, no Eucharist. So we need more of that.
That's true.
That's a good slogan.
No priest, no Eucharist.
Yeah. No. Also, I'm bringing my parents, so you don't have to just bring kids. My parents have never been to ordination, and they're very excited to come.
Okay.
And now I've said it out loud, so they have to come.
You understand that means your parents will meet me.
Oh, I'm going to keep y'all separate.
There's danger.
That's a very lame example. That is.
Actually,
wow.
I think you may have met them technically. But it was maybe like my first month here at the Wedding of the Sea and at St. Nicholas Tolentine.
Yeah,
they haven't had like 5 minutes of Mike.
No.
Okay.
No.
You heard how she said that, Mike?
I know. Actually, I did hear how that sounded. I apologize.
No, that's okay. The listeners understand. It is a great thing. For me, I've always gotten, particularly in this day and age and everything the Catholic Church has been through, there's a heroism that I look at these fine gentlemen who are going to become priests, quite literally rowing against the tide of this secular world that we have to fight through, and these guys are stepping up and they want to fight the spiritual battle in a world that isn't always accepting of the faith any longer. So the fact that they're doing it, I think, is truly, truly amazing. So you will, if you can't make it, we'll certainly be live streaming it. You'll be able to watch it on all of our social media platforms for the Diocese of Camden.
Thanks, Mike.
No problem. At YouTube, Camden Diocese, and Facebook, Camden Diocese. You can find the link on Twitter, Camden Diocese, as well.
Oh, and not to be outdone, you can read the article and see some amazing photos on CatholicStarHerald.org or Facebook, CatholicStarHerald.org, and Instagram, Catholic Star Herald.
I think if she's saying it, you guys have a good shot. That's going to be good. Just saying.
Well, the last edition we did was our Vocations edition. It was truly impressive. They really did the stories about the stories about are always fine, but in the latest edition we had a ton of seminarians telling their story, and it was great, including one of our seminarians, a guy by the name of Thomas Piro. He's got a great little story about about his journey, and it's one I would recommend.
Read it.
Yeah, it's a great one to read.
It's really interesting.
But no, we got that coming up, and we're very excited about that. And certainly In the state of New Jersey, we have the youth rally coming up at Six Flags in
15th, the next day after the ordination.
The very next day.
Yeah, it should be fun.
We are hosting it. So if you want to know more about that, I highly recommend you reach out to Jose Rodriguez in the Camden Diocese offices. He's the head of our family and youth department. He is putting the whole thing together. So, if you want to take part in it, by all means, reach out to him. He can always be reached at jose.rodriguez@camdendiocese.org. He's a good guy, too. And he's always out there looking to meet new friends and people who are interested in both helping out with family life and youth ministries in your parishes. So if you have an interest in that, you should always reach out to him. He's great that way.
Yes.
What else we have going on?
I think we should talk about Catholic News Service for a second.
That was a shocking turn of events. You're absolutely right. Let's talk about that.
So it was announced this week that Catholic News Service is closing 2 of its bureaus in New York and Washington, D.C. And for those who don't understand what Catholic News Service is, or maybe not familiar with it, in addition to reporting their own Catholic news out of Washington and New York and other areas, they are basically like an aggregate. They collect stories from other Catholic publications across the U.S. and the world, and then they distribute them. So if you pick up a Catholic Star Herald and you happen to be reading an article from California, it's because that came through Catholic News Service and somebody here read it and put it in the paper because we thought it would be of interest. Mm-hmm. So that's movie reviews, that's good works being done in other churches and dioceses. That is a lot of the information that you read out of the Ukraine, where you might be reading about some sisters that have been doing good work there. I don't know where the stories are going to come from now if nobody's collecting all of that. Catholic News Service will continue to report on all of the news come out of Rome. The Rome Bureau is still open, so maybe some of the international news will come through there as well. But as a journalist and as somebody who considers journalism evangelization, it was disheartening, and I also feel bad for all those who work with CNS who may be losing their jobs.
Yeah, I got to know several of the people down there. Yeah, it's very sad, and it's a bit peculiar in the manner in which it was announced. They basically said they're gonna. So the Catholic News Service is run by the USCCB, the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. Sure, that's what it is. But it's an independent wing, so it's run. They were not the mouthpiece of the USCCB. They reported on things that were going around the USCCB, and they did it as an official representative of the Catholic Church, or officially representing the Catholic Church. Now, there's a ton of other publications in the world that cover Catholic news, but that was the one that I felt was the least biased. Now, certainly it was biased in a certain respect, in the sense that, it was not advocating, but it was communicating directly from the bishops.
Right.
So there's an inherent bias to that. But it also had an inherent officialness to it, And I always thought they did a really good job of covering stories from all the angles. I never once had any negative. I never read I don't think I read a single article that ever raised any red flags with me that I ever saw come out of Catholic News Service.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I kind of just want to go back to the importance of the own reporting they did, but also how they share news, right?
Yeah.
So I got an email last night, and then I got a call this morning from Alaska.
That's unusual.
Yes, it is.
Wow.
And it turns out that they had read the article about Mark Wahlberg that I had written because it was shared through CNS and their diocesan newspaper, North Star Catholic in Alaska, and had published my article. And her husband, the woman who called me, her husband has the same disease as Father Stu did, who Mark Wahlberg portrayed in the movie.
Wow.
So she called me. She sent me an email last night, and then they both called me today. So I spoke with this woman and her husband who has this disease. And the reason she called was to, first off, relate her story, but also she was disappointed that in my article I had just written that it was a muscle disease, and didn't mention it by name. Oh. And she thought that was a missed opportunity to, if I had at least mentioned it by name, that people could Google it to find out more about it. And she is absolutely right. And so it's called Inclusion Body myositis. I think I pronounced that right. And I'm going to go back into the article and fix that for online so people can Google more about it. But I'm just saying, without Catholic News Service, she would not have read that article. And that is another important thing about CNS. So it was interesting that news came out on the same day that she happened to email me and then call me this afternoon.
Yeah.
That is so powerful.
That is.
Story.
And the truth is, what I found mildly irritating about the announcement about CNS was that they didn't give a lot of explanation as to what was going to happen. Just a sort of a cursory sentence that they were going to be moving the funding for the service into more modern platforms, which is fine. You know, we're on all sorts of different platforms, and there's a wisdom to doing that. But people are still reading. They still listen to the radio. They still read stuff that comes to their door. That, in our case, you know, our newspaper, more than anything we put out on a podcast or any of our YouTube videos or stuff that we put up on the web, still pales in comparison to the number of people who read our weekly newspaper. I know that there's this philosophy or this perspective on the world that newspapers are dying. And to a certain degree, that's correct. But I might say that they're not so much dying as evolving into new entities that can bring the news. The point is that when it comes to Catholic news, you can't find it in secular news any longer. There are no faith reporters. They just don't exist any longer, unless you're like a major publication like the Washington Post or the New York Times. The problem is they're not, unless we do something really stupid or something really awesome, they're not going to report on your average run-of-the-mill diocese. So getting that Catholic news out there is important, and believe it or not, newspapers are still the way to do that. So that was a bit disheartening and irritating because they didn't really explain how, or they didn't really explain the mechanism they were going to use to migrate into a new format, which seems like a little bit short-sighted. Because I want to know, darn it.
Yeah.
I use your service.
Yeah.
Right.
It's kind of like, so no more news feeds?
Exactly, right?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So that was a little disheartening. So we'll see what comes out of it. And who knows? You know, I was checking out a lot of the feedback I was seeing online, and there seemed to be just about nobody happy about it. Mm-hmm. And the people who were happy about it definitely had an axe to grind. Yeah. So the rank and file journalists and consumers of Catholic media are less than thrilled. But anyway, we'll see what happens.
Maybe we can do a podcast later on explaining what's happening, and what's coming
absolutely.
next. This is great that, we can have this venue as a way of informing our listeners of what's happening and as far as what we know about it.
Yeah.
And then, we can come back with more, hopefully, better news.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yes. Speaking of better news, we have some great Catholic school news that we had to report, and there's a lot of good things going on in Catholic schools, right, Marianella?
Of course, there's always good things going on in Catholic schools.
It's true.
Think, it's a joy to still have Catholic schools in this world that needs it a lot. I think it's part of what makes us proud as a Catholic diocese to have many schools around doing the good work and, evangelizing our little kids and evangelizing our families that are part of our Catholic schools.
Now we're just finishing up National Teachers Appreciation Week, and I've been seeing a lot of photos coming out of our Catholic schools of them celebrating teachers.
Yes. We definitely feel so proud of their vocations, because they are vocations. We've always said they have a ministry, and I truly believe that when I walk around the schools and see the people that we have and what they do and how they do it. It's kind of like, wow, we feel good.
Right.
Yeah, it's true. The social media was aflame this week as we were looking at all the teachers being recognized, duly noted that they were. I tell you, so my son's in 8th grade right now in a Catholic school, and with everything the teachers have had to go through the last 2 years, they have had to do things that they never have had to do in years past, and they've done it with such grace and grit. I I cannot wait for them to reach the summer because I really truly believe they need some time off.
They deserve a vacation.
Yes.
They really do.
Yeah.
It's really been wonderful, and I know that it makes a big difference in my son's life to have them in it as he's preparing for high school. We had to ask a number of teachers to write letters of recommendation for him, and every single one of them stepped up to do it, and we really appreciated that. And they didn't have that was extracurricular work; they didn't have to do that, and they did it. And my son's much like me in many ways. He's a handful, and
He recognizes that, people. Wow. That's a good Catholic value.
Hey, listen, I was like, well,
wait, how much cold medicine have you had?
I've had a lot of cold medicine, but I kept thinking to myself, I was like, oh, geez, I don't know, Jack. I don't know if that teacher is necessarily going to write you a recommendation. If they do, I don't know what it'll say, but by all means, give it a whirl. But and actually, I still don't know because we didn't open them. So we just sent them. Well, that's how you're supposed to do it.
Oh, right.
You get the recommendation, you just send it along to the entity that's doing the scholarship. So we have no idea. I mean, I said, Jack, no guarantees you're going to get it, but, let's hope for the best.
Who knows?
Give it a whirl.
Well, I just want to say, Jen, just for our listeners, our teachers get to celebrate or get celebrated twice a year, actually, because it's been our tradition in our Catholic schools in the Diocese of Camden that we celebrate our teachers during Catholic Schools Week. We dedicate a day for our teachers and staff to celebrate their work and what they do. So starting with the years of the pandemic, we feel like, we needed to do more for our teachers and thank them even more because they've been working so hard. And so, last year we did a big event during that day. It was a diocesan event where we really took that and celebrated teachers and honored them with the red carpet.
I love that.
It was such a lovely day. I think, they were surprised and, we had banners and all that kind of stuff. We may not be able to do that every year, but I think we still wanted to honor the day and the week this week to do something about it. But just know that if you feel like, we are not doing enough, just know that it's twice a year, and the main focus is during Catholic Schools Week because that's when we celebrate Catholic schools as a whole.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's kind of like our schools are, getting ready for the summer. They're finalizing the last quarter. And, students are excited, finishing their curriculum for the year.
And graduations are coming up soon, too,
Graduations are coming up, and it's kind of like one of the most exciting times of the year for families as they finish up the year with their kids. There's, some schools that do even little kindergarten graduations, or, they do moving up days. It depends on the school, but they do celebrate as well. So it's kind of cute. I love to see those little ones.
Right,
They're moving up the grades. But we have definitely graduation plans going on right now, and it's exciting. I get to go to some of our graduations as a representative, and it's amazing.
I was just about to ask that. Do you go to the high school and middle school graduations, or just as many as you can get out to?
Not our communications manager gets to go to cover those mostly, but I do get to go to Camden Catholic's graduation also as a board member and get to walk sometimes. I remember that last year I posted a picture of myself walking in the gown. Did you? Yeah. Oh my God. And somebody congratulated me in social media thinking I was graduating again.
Well, that is actually a nice congratulations.
And I'm like, well, not really graduating, but just showing off my master's degree.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that.
It was so much fun, but I love to see it, and kind of being there reminds me of the days when I graduated myself and how exciting that was, and looking at the kids and that moment in life and what that means is so exciting.
Right. Yeah, I mean, when I think back to just my high school graduation, right? So, I think I've mentioned on the podcast before, I grew up in Texas. My high school graduation class was 1,000 students.
Wow.
That's just the graduated. That was the senior class. So, it's not personal. It's who you hardly remember it. There's not a lot, it's just it's too big. It was held in a stadium, for goodness sake, So I love seeing these Catholic school graduations, because you see that one-on-one relationship between the students, between the teachers and a student. You get more attention when it's not 1,000 students.
Well, that's so different than my experience, where I had like 45 students in my class. I remember all of them. We were still connected somehow.
No way.
And
That's awesome.
my principal, the Dominican Republic, she is a Sister of Mercy. And, she sees me now and then, like in my social media posts, and she's like so proud that I work for the Diocese of Camden and still, involved in the church. Mm-hmm. And it's a very personal connection. So that's, such a different experience.
Yeah,
but, big or small, no matter what, graduations are such a special day for the kids. And we can't wait to see them walk.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited.
Did you walk, Mike?
I did. I did walk. Jack's graduating 8th grade this year, so he's very excited about that. Mostly he's excited about all the presents he's going to get, but he's excited about it. I actually have very little memory of my high school graduation, other than I remember being really hot. And I think it was the first time I had ever met the then Bishop McHugh, was when he handed me my diploma.
Wow.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. And then, and actually Bishop Sullivan will be doing that at all at the graduations in the Diocese of Camden for high schools. So that'll be nice. I don't know. I mean, I love pomp and circumstance. But I often wonder if it's kind of like a wedding. Like, okay. Well, hold on.
That was weird.
I have, no, in the sense of I have no memory I have very little memory of my wedding because it all happened so fast, and you're like in the. Is that just a guy thing?
Mary and Ella just looked at each other like, "Who is this?"
Do people?
Don't say that, Mike.
I'd like to go on the record.
Don't even go there. I hope your wife doesn't listen to this.
No.
I mean,
you're right.
The wedding reception kind of goes fast, and like if you ask me, like I don't remember what I did, and it's the kind of same. I can say that my college graduation the same way. I will say when I got my master's degree. I liked it because it was in a stadium. No, I did actually. It was kind of cool because it was in a stadium, and I do remember that one clearly. But that was also because my friends from work had come, and because it was in a stadium, they could all fit, which is why it's nice to have it in a stadium. Yeah. And then Jack was like 4 years old, so there's a picture of me holding him up in my cap and gown, and it's. I remember that one.
I think that it would be a great idea if you recreate that at Jack's 8th grade graduation,
and he holds me up.
He holds you up.
Well,
yeah.
We may need to wait a few years before he can pick me up, but he's tall, but not necessarily. Doesn't have that kind of strength.
Yeah, we'll give him protein.
Yeah, he needs a little protein. He's so tall and skinny. He gets that from his mom's side of the family. I got to get some meat on that kid. Though he did pitch 4 innings last night for his little league team and had an incredible outing where he gave up 1 hit, 1 run, 8 strikeouts, and 8 walks.
Oh, wow.
But only gave up 1 run, so it was a fine night for him. So he envisions himself as a D1 baseball player in his future. I'm like, it probably won't be his pitcher, but I hope so.
That's great. Jen, I was wondering, from the Star Herald perspective, what can families do to celebrate their kids?
That is an Marianella, you deserve an award for such a wonderful question. That is a wonderful question. They can reach out to the advertising department at the Catholic Star Herald and take out an ad on behalf of their children. It's a great thing. You just have to get in touch with Neil Cullen. That's actually, is his email address Camden Diocese or Catholic Star Herald? I always forget.
He has both, I think, but Camden Diocese.
So Neil.Cullen at CamdenDiocese.org, and you can inquire about taking out an ad for your graduate.
Yeah, it's great. They get to run the headshot of your student who's graduating.
Exactly, and you can write a little memo, and you can cut that off and put it in your kid's journal, whatever
scrapbook.
Scrapbook. That's what I meant. Scrapbook. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think, families love that. But I think once that child grows and they see that, that you did that for them, it's a cute little idea. And, you support the beautiful work of the paper. And you know how important that is now that we're losing a big source.
That is true. That's an excellent. Wow. kudos to the segues there.
Nice job.
Marianella.
Oh, stop.
All right. I like that. Because the managing editor wasn't able to pull that together, nor was the publisher. So thank you very much. But it is true. And we will have a lot of coverage in the newspaper as well about the graduations, particularly the high school graduations. So I'm pretty sure we're covering again this year, right?
Yes.
You know, I think also, like, just because I like people to be connected and know where the source of information is, I think if you are not following our social media platform, you should do that, because our wonderful Mike Walsh and his staff photographers are going to be going around these graduations with Bishop Sullivan, taking amazing pictures, and they're going to be posted on social media. So if you want to find those really meaningful pictures of the day, you should follow us.
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up, Marianella, because the Catholic Star Herald has photo galleries now, which I don't think a lot of readers know about yet. We just started kind of promoting that on social media. So during graduation, we will have a photographer at all of the high school graduations. So you can flip through the photo galleries and see your family members and kids on our photo galleries.
And we take hundreds of photos.
Yeah,
they take a lot.
They won't make them. All of them won't go up. But I mean, some of our galleries are pretty big, right?
I throw up a lot of photos, like unless it's an absolute duplicate. Like we want to try to get as many, in this case, different faces, different poses, the teachers, just capture the whole day. So hundreds is a good way to put that.
Yeah. So I forget if a person likes one of those, are they able to buy the photo?
They will be able to buy them by graduation time. Yes.
Maybe we should sell an album. This is just an idea on air, Mike.
Well,
I'm just saying.
And anything that we can make Jen do, I support. So that's not a problem.
I'm sorry, Jen. I didn't mean that.
I will pass that off to the advertising department, who are much better at their job than I would be at their job.
That is very true. They are dedicated to that. But yeah, that is nice. We did actually just rolled that out recently, and it is nice because anytime we go to any event, I'll usually submit about 80 photos for consideration, because I submit a lot because I also keep them there for archive purposes. But now that we have that, because we'll usually put up like 20 on social media, 10 on Instagram, 4 on Twitter. Right. But here you can actually get a real good feel for the day. Yeah. So it's nice.
Flip through and see if you see yourself or your kids or your grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is really nice. And I actually do think that the plan is to have them for sale at some point. We're not going to charge an arm and a leg for them, but if you want a photo, it's all yours.
It's very, very, very affordable.
Yeah. Back in the
very.
Like that. There was a couple of berries on there. Yeah.
Back in the old days, when I was just a wee reporter photographer down the Jersey Shore, I think we were getting like $25-$30 for a reprint photo. Yeah, I know. It was crazy.
Wow.
But I always gave mine away. I never
once. Most photographers do.
Yeah, it's very rare that I don't give my photo away.
You know what? That is a sign of a good photographer, because good photographers give away their photo. You know why? Because it's about the passion for their skill and wanting to make others happy. No, actually, no. You know what? It's not that. I don't know why I said that last part.
No. But it is. But in my case, it was one of the rare areas where I had a soft spot, and I was like, oh, I took a picture of your kid doing something awesome.
There you go.
Yeah, it's all yours. I don't care. It's fine. I got paid already for it. You don't need to pay me for the print. We're good for that.
There you go. That's what I meant by like the
good-hearted.
Yeah,
he's good-hearted. Look at that, people.
I know it's a rarity, but only when it comes to people. What is it? People seeing the glory of my skill.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I think that I don't think it's as much as that they want to see their loved one as they want to see your skill.
That is that is what all of us photographers believe. I'll tell you that right now. Okay. That is spot on. Alrighty, so we got about 2 minutes of this intro portion left before we move into the interview that we had. This great interview that we had. So who was on the podcast that we actually interviewed about schools?
We have Father Byerly and also Kathy O'Gallaghan from St. Peter's School in Merchantville, and we did a wonderful chat with them and talk about the importance of the pastor's input in the Catholic schools, and how that relationship can really help the school life and the parishioners, and also the school community as a whole. So Father Tim Byerly and Kathy O'Callaghan were great, just letting us know and teaching us how that goes.
And both have been on the podcast before, but it's the first time we had them on together. Father Tim, we had a great conversation with him, a Marian conversation on the podcast maybe 3 years ago, and Kathy was on with her husband 4 or 5 years ago, and it's hard to believe I've been doing the podcast for that long. But they were great, and they are both dedicated to the school and their parish and the interconnection between the two of them. So it's a great conversation, and you'll get to listen to it right now. Enjoy.
So we're here with Father Byerly and Kathy O'Callaghan from St. Peter's School and St. Peter Parish in Merchantville. And I just kind of wanted to ask you questions related to Easter. We know that Easter just passed, and it's like the third Sunday of Easter already. And we just kind of wanted to have a conversation with you about school life and parish life and how those integrate. And so the first question would be, because we're still that celebration mode of Easter and the glorious moment where Jesus came back to life, celebrated at the school level, Kathy?
How we integrate the celebration of Easter with our school programming? Is that basically the question?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we do that on a number of levels, of course, because it's a whole preparation for Easter throughout Lent. We've resumed our in-person Mass every Friday at 10 a.m. with the entire student body. And then also we have Stations of the Cross on Tuesdays, followed by benediction, and all the children participate in that as a way of getting ready for Easter. We spoke about no sacrifice and penance and extra prayers and things like that. That's also integrated. Kathy can say more about this, integrated into the curriculum. And then as we approach Holy Week, we really encourage our children to come out for the Triduum events. And most of our students in the school are order servers. Most of our order servers are students in the school. They participate in the major events. They come with their families to the Holy Thursday service, which we have a grand procession and so forth. Good Friday, we have a huge crowd. And for the Easter Vigil, not as much, but then Easter Day. So we're prepared the kids for the great moments of the celebration of salvation history, and then we celebrate it with them. And then, of course, they are gone for the week after, and they are enjoying themselves, sleeping in. And we don't know what mischief they're getting into. Kathy and I can't track them down at that point. But
no.
Yes. What happens in Merchantville stays in Merchantville. That's what we always. So, in any case, and then we resume. We had Divine Mercy Sunday, nice crowds Mass for that, and then we're back with our usual routine. But always in the spirit of, of course, the Easter season, of course, lasts until Pentecost, Feast of Pentecost. So we're mindful of that. And then when the children now go over for Mass on Fridays during these next few weeks, the church has the decorations for Easter and the image of the risen Christ, and flowers and so forth help them to think of the risen Savior.
That's awesome.
And of course, in May, we also get to focus a lot on Mary as well. This is another great element of this time of year. Are there any opportunities for including Mary into the
yeah,
school?
I'm going to let Kathy, if you'd like.
Sure. I haven't talked to Father Tim about that, but we pre-COVID we would do the rosary with the whole school, the entire school and church. So I'd like to start that up again. So after the podcast, we'll be talking about that.
Yes.
It's public now, so Father. I don't know.
It's always nice to learn these things this way, Mary. It's the perfect way to learn it because you'll never forget it.
Oh my goodness!
And then we'll have our May crowning the first Sunday in May. So we have our 8th grade students, and they'll be processing, crowning Mary, and that's always such a beautiful event. I love
that's
that.
One of the traditions that stays.
What's nice about that, I'm sorry, Muriel, I didn't mean to speak over you. What's nice about the May crowning is that our 8th graders, the girls have special dresses that they wear. This is a tradition established by my predecessor, Father Anthony, and we continue it. It's beautiful. At the main Mass on Sunday, the 8th graders are in the first pew with the girls in the special dresses, guys in their school uniforms, and then our first communicants who have just received their first communion the day before. And at the end of Mass, we have a great procession, and then we come back up, and one of the girls from the 8th grade, selected by the 8th grade teacher and the principal, Kathy, crowns our Blessed Mother. Then they make an act of consecration, the 8th graders with the whole church. They're kneeling in front of the statue along the communion rail. They make an act of consecration to Our Lady of themselves, and then we have a moment of benediction. So it's kind of like, what shall we say? It's always done for the 8th graders. It's one more dimension of integrating spirituality, Catholic spirituality, into their lives. It anticipates confirmation, which this year is on May 17th, and then shortly thereafter, we're getting ready to graduate.
And we've been doing this. Really, I remember being a student here and participating in the May crowning. So clearly,
it's a tradition.
The dawn of time. We've been doing it.
And I bet you that you still kind of treasure in your heart that moment in which, I think it's one of those things that stays with the students forever in their lives when they experience that, especially the girls when they get to crown Mary. It's kind of like, I got to do that.
Yes. That's a special gift. It really is.
It's a special gift, definitely. So if our listeners wanted to know more about what is it that, nowadays a lot of our schools are not located where the parish is, but you have the fortune to have, the parish next to the school. And that's a beautiful thing. What would you say, Father, to pastors that, may not be really next to the school and that want to integrate the parishes more into the school life?
Well, that's a tremendous question, Mariana. I empathize with the guys who are trying to do, who have the regional schools and are trying to integrate into some kind of cohesive unity students from various parishes. But actually, we kind of have that a bit in ourselves too. Although we are a parish school only, we're not a regional school. We do have students coming from far and wide who are associated with other parishes. So they're not necessarily going to church here on Sundays and other feast days at St. Peter's. They're going with their own parishes. And we integrate them as best we can. We try to look at the school as a unified student body, even though we may not see those children at our church services. And that's why the weekly Mass, the Friday Mass, is so critical, because then we're all praying together as a student body, and this keeps the spiritual unity. Would you have anything to add to that, Ken?
That was beautiful.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, our schools, parents are coming from all over the place. There's not a school in every town. So people need to find where their Catholic schools are. And I think, that is a testament of people's wanting to have that Catholic education and wanting to make sure that their kids experience that and that they are educated in our faith. What do you have to say about the parents and how they get involved into the life of the parish and the school at the same time? Kind of like, Kathy, can you talk about that?
Sure. Well, because we're a Catholic school, and there's so many ways that people can volunteer and get involved. That's always the best way, is to jump right in and get your feet wet. And so we have so many events that are parish and school, integrated. And so we have, and then parishioners learn about the school, and then our school families maybe are starting to learn about the Catholic faith, and then they can meet with parishioners and come together and learn more about the faith and why it's so beautiful.
I would add to that, Mariana. I think that the real core of the religious dimension of our school, I have to attribute that to much of it to Kathy, because it really is about the conviction of the leadership. Kathy went to the school, attended the school, went to Camden Catholic High School, and then providentially has come back as the principal at the helm of the school. And her own personal faith, we talk about Catholic identity, but it's not something that's not something external to the person. It's something that's interior. And Kathy's personal commitment to Christ and the church and her own parish in particular is what forms the main features of the Catholic identity for St. Peter's, along with me working with her. It really comes down to the personal faith convictions of the people at the helm.
Thank you.
That's a shout out right there.
It was nice.
In public, we're like doing this thing at St. Peter's right now. So I also have kind of like for our listeners that may not know how much our Catholic Church actually supports the Catholic schools and how that goes. Can you talk, Father Byerly, about the financial support that our just have to really do to make sure that Catholic education is available in South Jersey?
Well, there's a couple of dimensions to that. Certainly, the diocese has they have funds that each school is allocated a considerable sum of money to help them in their financial obligations. We ourselves have some scholarship funding that people give so that we can help students and families who really, they're committed people, but they have trouble making ends meet if they're going to be paying for tuitions for 2, 3, 4 children. And we do our best to accommodate them. And, we have a little committee, and Kathy and I work together on trying to allocate the limited funds that we have to those as best, we can to enable them to attend Catholic school. I know the parents make tremendous sacrifices. And I always admire them, and I always tell them that again, it's because of their own faith convictions. And also they see today more and more the contrast between a Catholic school and a public school. It used to be not quite so dramatic, but now, especially with some of these curriculums that are trying to impose or indoctrinate children in certain values that are not in keeping even with human nature, let alone the faith, people are beginning to realize the importance of Catholic education, and they're making the sacrifice. And
we always tell families, you let us know where you are, and we'll try to help you out. We'll meet you, because if you are committed to a Catholic education, this is the kind of family that we want in our building. So we love to work with families to help them.
I would add, Marianella, we also have a number of Hispanic students in our congregation here, as well as African Americans, Filipinos, some Vietnamese, and so forth. But the diocese has a funding to help Hispanic students in Catholic education as well, which we are able to take advantage of, and that's a nice feature for us.
Yeah, we talk about the universality of the church, and I think that's part of what we want to portray our schools as, schools that, are very much welcoming of diversity, because, Christ is diverse, like he's, encompassing all of us. And, I think that it is great that I think every day we're looking at our Catholic schools with higher population of minorities that are coming in and feeling welcome in our schools. And that's what we want for sure. So you're doing a great job of integrating the Latino community that is coming organically to your area. So we're very, very thankful for that. And to the parishioners that are, loving the school and willing to contribute to make sure that Catholic education continues to be available. One of the things that we always talk about is the sacrifice that parents make when it comes to providing a Catholic education. But I think it's also important to talk about the stewardship that the parishioners and the parents have to the Catholic school, because it is not only a sacrifice on the parents' end, but it's also a sacrifice on the administration, on the teachers. This is a ministry, and I think that's a very important message that people need to understand. What are your thoughts, Father and Kathy?
That is a great point, Marianella. This is a ministry. And as I say to our faculty, and as I say to our students, that without Jesus Christ, there's no purpose, no reason to do what we're doing. If Jesus Christ is not in the center of Catholic education, it's just a another public school. It's just another, or maybe a charter school or something like that. It doesn't have any reason to exist. So Jesus has to be at the center, the core of it. It is, you say, it's a ministry, it's a mission. It's a mission. And without the Lord, what's the point of it?
And that's why it works. It's a partnership. Our focus is God. Our teachers focus on God. Our students focus on God. Parents focus on God. We're focusing on God. So when we're all on the same page, it works because we all believe in the same thing and we're all getting to the same end. Our focus is Jesus. That's why it works.
That's great. And I think people need to be reminded of like what, why did we come up with Catholic schools? Like, our history and why do we exist? There's a document from the Holy See Press that came out that talked a lot about the, why Catholic education exists and also the Catholic identity of a Catholic school and how important that is. So we exist because we want to make sure that we have God in the center of our schools and that we teach our children the Catholic doctrine of our Catholic Church, right? And so this is our core, value. And, when people come in, we are welcoming of all people, as, we always say. But, I think parents, as they're choosing us, need to know that, in essence, this is who we are. We are not apologetic about being Catholic because Catholic is at the center of our existence.
Mm-hmm. Beautifully said.
Thanks.
Father
Mike.
Tim, something you alluded to earlier is actually something I've been getting a lot of questions about, particularly from the press, which is, in the state of New Jersey and as well as many states, you're seeing less of a focus on traditional values being entering into the school system. And I've been asked repeatedly, are we seeing an uptick in enrollment based on that for people who are looking for a traditional learning experience? So far, all I have is anecdotal, responses to that. But I do think that is, we certainly talked about our Catholicism and both you and Marianella and Kathy did a great job of explaining that. But the fact that in some ways our schools can be considered a refuge now for people who are looking for a traditional learning experience, which I think it's good that we exist to fill that need.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we had an open house last night and I had several questions from parents and they started and I said, we teach God and we follow the tenets of the Catholic Church. They're like, okay, good enough. We're done. Thank you. We'll sign up.
Yeah. Yes. And we had some families, in 2019, Governor Murphy signed a new dimension to the curriculum of public schools that really has nothing to do that much with education. It's rather about behavior. And we've had some families step out of those public schools and come and enroll here at St. Peter's for that because they just didn't want their children to be subject to that. I think we're going to see as things become more and more radical, I think you're going to see people, your word is perfect, you're going to be looking at Catholic schools as a refuges from some of this radical thinking and radical indoctrination. Well, I tell you, I'm very excited with the idea that that is how we are looked at, quite frankly, because I think that uniqueness of our church in general, but certainly our schools specifically, are something that have always made us very unique. And I think people will find a great opportunity here. So we are going to wrap up the podcast now, but thank you both for joining us. I should say that you are both podcast veterans, so it was great to have you back on again. This is a pleasure. And I'm going to remind Marianella Nunez and Mike Bress in the school's office that you guys are all 15 minutes away. So next time we definitely don't have to do this as a Zoom call. We will be more than happy to come over and interview you guys face to face.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you later.
All right. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.